Welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Life, where today we're talking about this specimen here, which does have some dead leaves in it, but I left them in for demonstration purposes. Now, what is this plant, you ask? Well, its scientific name is Aspidistra minutiflora, or commonly known as Chinese ribbon plant. It is a cousin of that plant you've heard of, Aspidistra elatior, or cast iron plant. It is also sometimes called cast iron plant. It has the same wacky common names suggestive of its origins as its more famous cousin. Now, this is a plain green variety, as you can see, but there are varieties that are speckled in white and gold, and I wanted the straight green. But anyway, it is in the Asparagaceae family, which means it is related to asparagus. Its edibility is unknown. Its use for medicine, unknown. You're going to hear a lot of unknown on this one, unfortunately. The name Aspidistra comes from the Greek word aspid, a shield, and istra from topistra, which is a order of plants in the lily family. Okay, I guess it resembles that. That's where that came from. Minutiflora, minus the yowler that just went through the frame there, means small flower, which is true. This species, as you know, the cast iron plant and this one, both have tiny flowers that appear at about soil level, and they're not really showy. You could miss them real easy. But what's interesting is this variety, this particular variety, it rarely flowers and even more rarely produces fruit. So it's all about the foliage, which is plain green. And some people might mistake this for a really, really chunky liriope or monkey grass. They're not related. Now, the Aspidistras, both of them are native to Asia. I couldn't exactly get a clear answer as to what part, whether it's South Asia or any of that, but whatever. It's hardy. This particular variety is hardy in USDA zones 8 through 10B. That's an estimation on the 10B. It is an Aspidistra. There's no reason it should be any less hardy than the original one, but you never know. It is classified as an evergreen perennial in that range. And these plants indeed were out in the garden for several years in a neglect zone and did okay, and then I rescued them and fertilized them hard, and you get what you see here. Now, every 3 years or so, every 2 to 3 years, you get dead leaf that pile up. They're full of lignin, so they don't decompose quickly, so you have to go in and snip them out, or it'll choke out the new growth, or the plant will look really, really ratty, and you just don't want that. Now, it prefers a pH of 5.5 to 6.5. Its exposure is light shade to full shade, just like its cousin, which can tolerate the depths of the indoors. I need like a lightning bolt sound effect for that. But anyway, yeah, its height is about 1 to 2 feet on average. There are several different varieties, so it ranges some. Its width is 6 inches to 1 foot, which this plant is exhibiting just fine. And it's also known as cast iron plant, barroom plant, saloon plant. I think you know where this is going. Now, the story behind these common names is actually worth mentioning. You see, this plant was reputed to survive all the chaos that happens in the saloons of the Wild West. Being shot, having random fluids poured in them, being urinated on. Salt water. It's actually saltwater tolerant. The traditional Aspidistra elatior has all this reputation, and since this is his direct cousin and it has similar properties, it probably could tolerate exactly the same. Now, it is not fond, rather, I should say, the deer and the rabbits are more likely to leave it alone because it's probably not very tasty and it's full of coarse fibers, which is why those dead leaves are a problem. It is noted to be salt tolerant. Yay! Additionally, as I mentioned, the flowers are rare and they're at soil level. They're actually, if there were any, I would see them in the pot, but there are unfortunately none. This plant is in recovery. There are 2 of them actually in recovery. They're the same size. They've been brought in and put in these tall pots for a year of recovery. I don't know if I'm going to bring them in as a house plant or keep them out there. I haven't planned that far yet. But I'm glad to have it because they survived outside. They're hardy, evergreen, outdoors. Now here's the catch. Indoors, if the humidity's too low, these plants may get spider mites. And you can fix that by raising the humidity and or watering regularly, but not till they're sopping wet. Moist soil will emit humidity, and indoors specifically, because humidity tends to balance out with dry air. And so you can kind of combat that. Push comes to shove, a pyrethrin insecticide sprayed over their webbing will usually take care of these things. And that's really it. They're actually really easy, and it's an interesting plant because it forms rhizomes and it slowly creeps and spreads. Its cousin can form dense, weed impenetrable layers. And interestingly enough, you see the leaves there? Those leaves, actually, the what you think is the stem down by the creeping rhizomes is actually the petiole of the leaf. This plant does not produce branches. The leaves just shoot up out of the ground, which is really cool. It's a weird plant. It's a plant that technically could be used as a deep shade ground cover or for massing or for a solid green border. So there's some options there. So that's all I have for you in regards to Chinese ribbon plant. If you have any Chinese ribbon plants and you have any thoughts, or you're growing its bigger, more famous cousin, put those comments in the comment section. I love to hear back from you folks. And as I mentioned before, the blog is on hiatus until next year. You can always look up the Forage blog, Random Cat. And, if you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps the channel. I'm working on new content as of this video. This is the start of the new content. So, as always, folks, keep them growing. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next time.